January 4th, 2026, just after midnight in the Lipetsk region of Russia. Deep in the Russian industrial heartland, far from the front lines, sits a facility that most people have never heard of. This isn't an oil refinery that makes headlines. This isn't a bridge that appears on tactical maps. This is something far more critical. This is the nervous system of Russia's entire modern warfare capability. Inside these walls, behind layers of security and secrecy, lies the production line for specialized power cells that make Russia's most advanced weapons actually work. Every Iskander missile that strikes with precision, every GLONASS satellite that guides Russian forces, every advanced military communication system, they all depend on the components manufactured in this single facility. Without these power cells, Russia's smartest weapons become nothing more than multi-million-dollar paperweights, expensive scrap metal that can't hit a target. The security here is absolutely extreme. S-400 air defense batteries create an invisible dome over the airspace. Electronic warfare systems constantly scan for threats. The facility is protected by multiple layers of defense, positioned hundreds of kilometers behind the front lines. Russian military planners considered this location untouchable, safely tucked away in the heartland where Ukrainian forces could never reach. Then, in the cold darkness of that January night, everything changed. The silence is suddenly shattered by something the Russians never expected. A coordinated swarm of Ukrainian long-range drones flying low through the winter air, expertly navigating through the gaps in radar coverage. These aren't the improvised drones you see in frontline footage. These are sophisticated systems purpose-built for this exact moment. At 4:15 in the morning, the first impact tears into the main production hall. What follows isn't just an explosion, it isn't just a fire. It's a cascade of destruction that will echo through Russia's military capabilities for years to come. The backbone of Russia's precision missile production becomes a pile of burning wreckage in a matter of minutes. This is the moment Ukraine unplugged the Russian war machine. Let me take you through why this single strike represents a strategic earthquake that Moscow simply cannot hide from, no matter how hard they try. The Energia Plant Lipetsk isn't your typical factory. This isn't a facility you can replace by ordering parts from Alibaba or setting up a new assembly line in a few months. This facility holds a unique and terrifying position in Russia's military infrastructure. It is the only manufacturer in the entire Russian Federation capable of producing specialized thermal batteries for high-precision military systems. Think about what that word only means in this context. One facility, one production line, one point of failure for an entire weapons program worth tens of billions of dollars. Now let me explain the technical reality that makes this so devastating. Modern precision-guided missiles like the Iskander-M don't run on AA batteries from the corner store. They require thermal batteries, which are incredibly specialized power sources engineered to survive conditions that would destroy conventional electronics in microseconds. These batteries must function through extreme G-forces during launch and flight. They must operate in temperature ranges from -40 degrees Celsius to +60 degrees. They must resist electromagnetic interference that would fry normal circuits. They must activate instantly and deliver consistent power under combat conditions. These specifications mean you cannot simply order thermal batteries from the international market. You cannot substitute Chinese-made components. You cannot improvise alternatives. They are custom-built, military specification items that require specialized knowledge, equipment, and materials to manufacture. And Russia had exactly one facility capable of mass-producing them at scale: the Energia Plant. Consider the implications. Russia has stockpiled thousands upon thousands of Iskander missiles. They have warehouses full of steel bodies. They have explosive warheads. They have rocket fuel. They have all the components except the one that matters most. Without these thermal batteries, their guidance systems are completely dead on arrival. An Iskander missile without a working battery becomes a 4-ton paperweight. Or worse, it becomes a wildly inaccurate dumb bomb that flies in an unpredictable direction and cannot hit its intended target. You've essentially turned a precision-guided weapon that can strike within meters of its target into something no more accurate than World War II artillery. But the destruction goes far beyond missiles. The Energia facility was also producing critical power components for the GLONASS satellite system. GLONASS is Russia's version of GPS, their independent navigation system that allows their military to operate without relying on Western satellites. Without GLONASS components, Russian drones lose their navigation accuracy. Their aircraft cannot coordinate effectively. Their cruise missiles cannot find their targets. They essentially go from conducting surgical strikes to World War I-style carpet bombing, hoping something hits the target through sheer volume. Ukrainian intelligence services had been tracking this facility for months with extraordinary patience and precision. They knew that in late 2025, Russia orchestrated a massive smuggling operation, bringing in specialized lithium and rare earth materials through third-party nations to bypass Western sanctions. This wasn't just routine procurement. This was Russia's strategic reserve for 2026, the materials that would keep their weapons programs running through the next year of conflict. Moscow had just completed a $150 million expansion of the facility, installing cutting-edge automated production lines that represented the pinnacle of Russian manufacturing capability. They believed this facility was completely untouchable, hidden deep in the Russian heartland, shielded by multiple layers of air defense protected by distance and geography. But here's where Ukraine demonstrated absolute genius in their strategic thinking. They didn't target the front lines where Russia expects attacks. They didn't go after tanks or troop positions or ammunition depots near the battlefield. Instead, they went for the supply chain. They went for the industrial jugular. This is asymmetric warfare at its most brutal and effective. You don't need to destroy every single missile Russia has in its arsenal. You don't need to engage in costly battles trying to shoot down incoming strikes. You just need to destroy the one factory that makes them work. Cut off the source, and everything downstream dies. The timing of this strike was absolutely perfect, chosen with surgical precision. This attack came at a moment when Russia was dramatically ramping up missile production, trying to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses through sheer volume. Moscow's entire strategy for 2026 depended on maintaining a steady flow of precision-guided Iskanders and Kalibr cruise missiles. They planned to use these weapons to break Ukrainian resistance, targeting infrastructure and military positions with relentless accuracy. That entire strategy just went up in smoke. Literally. This isn't just a tactical win that degrades Russian capabilities for a few weeks. This is a strategic masterpiece that will affect Russian military planning for years. And the brilliance of the operation is about to become even more apparent when we look at exactly how Ukraine pulled this off. Let me walk you through the surgical precision of this strike, because this operation wasn't lucky. This wasn't Ukraine getting fortunate with a random drone hit. This was military planning and execution at its absolute finest. A textbook example of modern warfare that military academies will study for decades. The operation begins at 3:30 in the morning in complete darkness. Ukrainian Special Operations Forces launch Phase 1 of the attack, the decoy swarm. 30 drones take off from carefully hidden launch sites positioned near the Ukrainian border. But these aren't your typical attack drones loaded with explosives. These are wooden frame decoys equipped with radar reflectors, basically metal structures designed to make them appear much larger and more threatening on radar screens. These decoys are loaded with one thing: deception. On Russian radar screens, they light up exactly like incoming cruise missiles. The size, the speed, the radar signature, everything screams major attack incoming. And the Russian response is exactly what Ukraine predicted. Russian S-400 and Panzer air defense systems in Lipetsk and Voronezh immediately activate. Alarms scream across Russian command centers. Operators scramble to their stations. Commanders start making rapid-fire decisions. Interceptor missiles, each costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, are fired at $200 decoys made of wood and aluminum foil. Russian air defense operators think they're heroes. They're celebrating, believing they're shooting down Ukrainian cruise missiles and saving critical infrastructure. In reality, they're burning through their ammunition stockpile while the real strike force slips through completely undetected. At 3:55 in the morning, while Russian air defense crews are reloading their systems and congratulating themselves on their victories, the real killers are already 150 kilometers deep into Russian territory. 12 stealth drones built from carbon fiber and coated in radar-absorbent material are skimming just 30 meters above the ground. They're following river valleys, hugging terrain features, staying below the radar horizon where detection is nearly impossible. These aren't manually piloted systems requiring constant communication. They're guided by autonomous AI systems programmed with their routes and targets. Systems that don't need constant GPS signals to navigate. This means Russian electronic warfare jamming, which they rely on so heavily, is completely useless against these drones. At 4:12 in the morning, the drones reached Lipetsk, but they don't just randomly bomb the factory hoping to cause damage. Ukrainian intelligence has done exhaustive homework on this facility. The primary targets are pre-programmed with surgical accuracy: the chemical electrolyte storage wing and the high-precision assembly hall. These are the two specific locations where Russia keeps its volatile lithium reserves and the irreplaceable machinery used to assemble the batteries. Why these targets? Because if you destroy these, you don't just damage the factory for a few weeks, you don't just set back production schedules, you completely erase Russia's ability to rebuild for months or even years. The machinery in that assembly hall cannot be ordered from a catalog. The lithium reserves represent months of careful smuggling operations. Destroying both means Russia starts from zero. At 4:15 in the morning, the strike begins. The first drone slams into the storage wing at over 400 kilometers per hour. The explosion rips through the reinforced concrete roof like it's made of cardboard. Within a fraction of a second, the entire storage facility erupts in a way that defies normal explosions. This isn't a controlled burn. This isn't a typical fire. It's instant, uncontrollable chaos. Lithium containers rupture simultaneously. If you know anything about lithium chemistry, you know what happens next. The chemical reaction is immediate and absolutely catastrophic. Flames explode in every direction, climbing walls, racing across ceilings, devouring everything in their path. Temperatures hit 2,000 degrees Celsius in seconds. At those temperatures, steel beams begin to twist and buckle like plastic. The concrete floor cracks under the intense heat, breaking apart like ice. Everything inside, pallets, containers, equipment, ignites simultaneously. But the attack doesn't stop. 3 seconds later, the second drone screams in. It punches through the assembly hall roof with pinpoint accuracy. The warhead detonates directly above the production line. The shock wave tears through the facility, shredding machinery, collapsing workstations, sending debris flying like shrapnel through the building. Then the third drone hits, then the fourth, each one targeting a different section of the assembly complex. The explosions come in rapid succession. Boom, 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 like a drumbeat of systematic destruction. The drones aren't just dropping bombs randomly, they're methodically dismantling the facility piece by piece, target by target, eliminating every critical system. The fifth and sixth drones target the western wing where the specialized battery assembly equipment is housed. Direct hits. The machinery, worth millions of dollars and completely irreplaceable, is shredded instantly. The seventh drone slams into the quality control center. The eighth hits the chemical mixing station. The 9th, 10th, and 11th drones spread across the facility, ensuring that no critical infrastructure is left intact, that no section can be quickly repaired and put back into operation. By the time the 12th and final drone impacts, the entire energy plant is engulfed in flames. The fires from multiple impact points merge into a single massive inferno. The building is dying, collapsing section by section under its own weight as the structural supports fail from the heat. At 4:25 in the morning, the chain reaction begins. This is where the strike transforms from impressive to absolutely devastating. The heat from the lithium fire is so intense that it triggers a domino effect across the entire facility. High-voltage electrical transformers overload and explode with deafening cracks. Each explosion sends sparks and molten metal flying in every direction. Pressurized chemical tanks containing solvents, acids, and industrial gases begin to rupture one by one. Some explode outward, blowing holes through the factory walls. Others vent toxic fumes that ignite mid-air, creating rolling fireballs that race across the ceiling. The toxic cloud rising from the facility is a nightmare cocktail of chemicals. Bright green from burning lithium, deep orange from chemical solvents, black from burning plastics and insulation. It's visible for kilometers, a toxic pillar reaching into the pre-dawn sky, announcing to everyone within visual range that something catastrophic has occurred. The fire department from Lipetsk responds with 7 trucks, sirens wailing through the early morning darkness. But when they arrive, they quickly realize they're completely helpless. You cannot fight a lithium fire with water. It only makes it worse, causing explosive reactions. Lithium reacts violently with water, releasing hydrogen gas and intensifying the flames exponentially. Firefighters make the attempt, but the temperatures are too high. The foam they spray evaporates before it even touches the fire. They're forced to stand back 200 meters away, watching helplessly as $400 million worth of irreplaceable military infrastructure melts into a toxic, glowing slag heap. There's nothing they can do but wait for the fire to burn itself out, which will take many hours. By 5 in the morning, the energy plant is a smoldering ruin. The main production hall has partially collapsed. The roof is completely gone. What's left standing is a hollow, blackened skeleton of twisted metal and crumbling concrete. 12 drones, 12 targets, 100% mission success. Ukraine didn't just hit a building, they weaponized chemistry and physics. They turned Russia's own industrial materials into a bomb that destroyed the facility from the inside out. And here's what makes this even more humiliating for Russia. Russian authorities stay completely silent. No official statement, no emergency press conference, no acknowledgement that anything happened. Why the silence? Because admitting the truth means admitting that Ukraine just crippled their most sensitive military production facility, located 300 kilometers behind the front lines, despite billions of rubles spent on air defense systems. Silence becomes the only option when you've been surgically humiliated in front of the entire world. Now let's talk about the strategic mathematics that keeps Russian generals awake at night, lying in bed doing calculations they wish they didn't have to make. Ukraine's entire operation, including the decoy drones, the stealth drones, and the planning and execution, cost approximately $2 million. In exchange, they inflicted $400 million in direct infrastructure damage. But that number, as massive as it is, represents just the tip of the iceberg. The real cost to Russia is absolutely catastrophic in ways that compound over time. Right now, at this very moment, Russia has a stockpile of Iskander-M and Kalibr cruise missiles worth over $8 billion. These are their most advanced, most feared weapons. These are the systems that give Russia its long-range strike capability. But without thermal batteries from the energy plant, they're completely useless. They sit in storage facilities, unable to launch, unable to guide, unable to hit their targets. It's like owning a fleet of Ferraris with no engines. Beautiful machines that cannot move. Russia now faces an impossible choice, a strategic dilemma with no good answers. Option 1. Halt all long-range precision missile strikes for 6 to 12 months while they attempt to rebuild the energy facility from scratch. But rebuilding isn't simple like ordering new equipment and hiring workers. The specialized machinery was custom-built by engineers who understood the precise requirements. The rare earth materials needed are under strict international sanctions. Even if Russia somehow manages to rebuild, smuggling in materials and avoiding sanctions, it will take years to return to full production capacity. Option 2. Try to source thermal batteries from abroad. China maybe, but at what price and with what strings attached? And will Chinese-made batteries even be compatible with Russian missile systems? These aren't plug-and-play components. The electrical specifications, the physical dimensions, the chemical compositions, everything must match exactly. Any mismatch could cause catastrophic failures mid-flight, potentially destroying the missile or causing it to detonate prematurely. Option 3. Strip thermal batteries from existing systems to keep the Iskanders operational. This means cannibalizing other weapons programs, pulling batteries from GLONASS satellites, from communications equipment, from other missile systems. But that creates a domino effect of shortages across the entire military. You solve one problem by creating 5 more. There is no good answer here. Ukraine has effectively checkmated Russia's entire missile strategy with a single, brilliantly executed strike. But the strategic brilliance goes even deeper than just the immediate damage. This attack sends a chilling message to every Russian military facility, every commander, every defense planner. You are not safe. It doesn't matter how far you are from the front lines. It doesn't matter how many S-400 systems protect you. It doesn't matter how secure you think your location is. We will find you, we will reach you, and we will destroy you. Moscow now has to divert billions of rubles to defend its rear infrastructure. Factories, power plants, logistics hubs, research facilities, all of these now require additional air defense systems, additional security personnel, additional resources. That's billions of rubles not being spent on frontline troops, not being spent on ammunition, not being spent on offensive operations. Ukraine is forcing Russia to fight a two-front war, one on the actual battlefield and one in their own backyard, defending facilities they never thought they'd need to protect. The year 2026 was supposed to be the year Russia overwhelmed Ukraine with relentless missile strikes, breaking their will to resist through constant bombardment of infrastructure and military positions. Instead, it's becoming the year Russia realized their entire high-tech weapons program has a single point of failure, and Ukraine found it and exploited it with devastating effectiveness. This is asymmetric warfare in its purest form. This is what happens when a smaller, more agile force uses intelligence and precision to strike at the vulnerabilities of a larger opponent. This is the energy blackout. This is Russia's worst nightmare made real. And for Ukrainian forces, this represents validation of a strategy that prioritizes intelligence, planning, and precision over brute force. Welcome to modern warfare, where one well-placed strike can accomplish what thousands of conventional attacks cannot.